And we have another beast of a question. That will be question 2i. Y equals to t squared minus x squared over t squared plus x squared. And this is the part where you go, no, Mr. Tan, you must hate us. And that's the part where I go, no, I really don't hate you at all. I love you so much that I just have to torture you with it, really. Now, we are trying to make x the subject. There are a lot of squares here. Is that going to be a problem? Don't worry about it. Treat it like any other a or b or s or t. Just the same thing. First things first, we multiply it out. Okay, I know you want to try to keep it together. I mean, in your heart, you probably feel, no, I really don't want to multiply it out. Unfortunately, that's the only way to do it. So, let's multiply it out. We've got y bracket t squared plus x squared equals to t squared minus x squared. And how I did that, you could say it's a bit of cross multiplication, okay? When I have over 1. And so I multiply it upwards, and I get this. Alright, so a bit of cross multiplication. Now, unfortunately, you just have to expand it out. So I get yt squared plus yx squared equals to t squared minus x squared. Now remember, what we're trying to do is make x the subject. If we want x to be the subject, we shift it over to the left-hand side. I've got minus x here. So using the shortcut, what I'm going to do is just going to bring the minus x squared over to the left-hand side. And I'm just going to do a little sleight of hand just to make things a little quicker. I'm going to do the exact same thing with this. I'm going to shift it over to the right-hand side because I don't want it on the left-hand side. X is my subject, not y, not t. So I'm just going to shift that over. What happens is I've got yx squared plus x squared. Remember, when the negative x squared goes over, it becomes positive x squared. On the other hand, when I've got t squared, the yt squared goes over, and because it's positive, when I bring it over, it becomes negative. So minus yt squared. What's common here? The x squared. The x squared is common, so I'm going to factorize it out. And I'm left with y plus 1. On the other side, now, I don't really care. I mean, I could factorize it, but I could leave it too. Up to you. Let's just factorize it just for the heck of it. Yeah? Of course, if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. Now, we want the x term, so we're just going to get rid of the y plus 1. And what do I do? Since this is x squared times y plus 1, this y plus 1 brought over becomes divided by y plus 1. Is that the end? No, it is not the end. It's painfully not the end, because this is an x squared. So you want to make sure that you square root. Okay, so both sides we're going to take the square root of it. Remember that in class we talked about something about the square root. Something is missing. What could that something be? Yes, that's right. When you take a square root, please introduce a plus or minus, okay? Because the final answer could be a positive or a negative number. Why? Let me remind you. 2 to the power of 2 is 2 times 2, and that's 4. On the other hand, negative 2 to the power of 2 is negative 2 times negative 2, and that's also 4. So, when I take the square root of 4, the answer could either be 2 or negative 2. And that's why we always put a plus or minus sign. Unless, of course, it's a length, and then length, there's no such thing as a negative length, then it'd just be a positive sign. But that you would reject, okay? So you just introduce the plus or minus sign. Is this the end of it? Well, yeah, you could leave it like that, no problem. I would just take it one step further and say x plus or minus, because this is a t squared. When I take a square root on the t squared, it's just going to come out as a t, and then I leave it as a 1 minus y over a 1 plus y. And that would be my final answer. Some of you may ask, wait a minute, how is it that Mr. Tan's y plus 1 became 1 plus y? It's like saying 3 plus 1 equals to 1 plus 3. It's the same thing. And the reason why I changed it to 1 plus y is just because I like to see the similarity. It's something mathematicians go for. It's called symmetry. And even though it's not quite the same, it just looks nice to mirror it. That's all. It's a preference. So I think that's, I could go further, one other step, but I think we'll cut it, we'll leave it at that.